Mirror signs. The sign you wait for, and the sign you need. I quote Aryan. I interpret a sign as real when it touches the heart in a special way. When it instantly surprises you and stirs something inside you. The moment you overdo it by putting your mind to it, you could miss the real meaning of the sign. The first impact is the most sincere. End quote. Hello again, and thank you for coming in to listen to me. I welcome you. Za'el here. Very often, we are faced with the uncertainty that life sometimes brings, and after a long time of trying to make that uncertainty go away, we tend to look for signs to help us get to what we need. This is a pattern that is repeated especially in religious people, or at least believers in some religion. And although their approach to this tends to have a deterministic tinge, asking for that clue or sign from someone supposedly external or different from who they are, the fact is that sometimes, even then, the message or set of messages they needed to receive may come into their life. Of course, in reality, it is they themselves who, with their own focus and blind trust that they would receive such a message, end up manifesting it in their lives. Knowing the latter should always work in your favor, as it will give you complete power over your life and what appears in it. However, it is often much easier to believe in others than in yourself. For that very reason, and as we talked about several videos ago, it is considerably dangerous to stop believing in yourself, or to fall into defeatism. On the one hand, becoming obsessed with the idea that signs will constantly appear to tell you which way to go, brings with it the problem of entering into a semi-deterministic mentality that takes away the responsibility to make your own decisions and conclusions. On the other hand, you will also analyze everything as a potential signpost, and in everything you can find it, so in reality nothing is really answering your concerns. And thirdly, getting into this state of strong, desperate searching ends up making you coincide with the frequency of searching and desperation. It sounds logical and obvious, but it is very easy to get to that point. Keep analyzing and drawing your own conclusions about what you need, and of course it helps to be attentive to the clues that we leave along the way, to ourselves. But don't fall into constantly looking for them, let alone relying on them, because after all, at no point have you ever stopped being your own higher self. So trust in yourself, those clues will come and they will catch your attention on their own. At the right time, they will be there. Or they will have always been there, but you will be able to see them at the right time. Trust in yourself, in the path you are building for yourself. Think about it. Most of the times that you have manifested in your life something related to what had your attention a little earlier, it has probably been things that didn't have that charge of need and urgency. Depending on a person's level of awareness, sometimes there are also what I like to call mirror signs. Mirror signs are those that appear in your life in a seemingly external way, reflected in situations that involve other people in your life, or even in a character in a book, series, movie, game, etc. Suddenly, after having been aware of your circumstances, you begin to see them reflected or embodied in someone with whom you have contact in some way, or as I say, even in the story of some fictional character. And here I am not talking about subtle similarities, but about similarities so great that they are so striking as to be taken into account. Cases in which you could almost say that your story is told in that character. Perhaps, for example, one of these people, obviously not the fictional ones, tells you about a big problem in their life. They tell you what they are discovering about that problem, and you observe how their situation evolves with those circumstances. And, at the same time, you observe how those circumstances seem to poetically go hand in hand with yours. This also happens when there is a strong connection with that person or persons, and it is just another proof that we are all exactly the same. The same person struggling with their own ideas from different stories or points of view, and in different intensities. It is widely known that when an unwanted situation constantly presents itself in your life, it is because you have something to learn from it. More than that, I would say that the fact that you always follow the same path or thought patterns leads to the same results, which manifest in your life in different ways. You may not have to change something, but to realize something. The fact is that the more self-knowledge you possess, and the more you know your inner self, with its many shadows and its many virtues, the more you will be able to interpret what is apparently going on around you, and why it exists and is in your life as well. If you add to this the knowledge necessary to understand how manifestation works, the connection between consciousness and who you really are, you will also progressively discover the immense responsibility that falls on you to work on yourself and maintain a balanced control over your ideas. You may also encounter signs that come into your life, but which are not exactly what you expected. And in the face of this, I will tell you that very rarely are things exactly as we expect them to be. It is not impossible, and I will always tell you to aspire to the best of the best, but it is normal for things to come into your life slightly differently from what you expect, at the very least. In this way, you may be ignoring the minor signs that indicate a message, because you are waiting to see if the one you expect will arrive. This mentality is similar to the problem many of us men have of not finding the things right in front of us, which I theorize is because we are focusing on what the object we are looking for should look like, and our mind ignores anything that doesn't fit that exact picture. Therefore, we are unable to see the lion, and it eats us, as they say. Of course, we must visualize clearly what we want. But it is important to do so from a position of joy and caring, not obsession or despair, and without failing to appreciate what, without expectation, might have come to tell us something we could do with knowing. But above all, you don't need to rely on constant external signals to continue living in one direction or another. Although I admit that there are mixed feelings in my advice, as I tend to always gather a lot, and when I say a lot I mean a lot, of data and signals over time in order to begin to conclude whether I am right or wrong. And for that, sometimes it is necessary to have a creative mind that proposes different situations, circumstances, and outcomes, and to be willing to be wrong and to make a fool of oneself with those propositions, and above all, to accept it. So, as you will see, and as I always say, I am not the holder of the truth. Nobody is. But I would like to encourage you to lose the fear of trusting yourself. To go into sign observer mode, instead of being a seeker. And it is you and you alone who will decide what they mean and what they represent, and to what extent they need to be analyzed. I could say that this video itself is the sign you were waiting for. It would be too easy. After all, there is an understandable tendency to seek such seemingly external help. However, I can really only tell you what you already know. You know how things work by now, probably, and therefore you know when and why certain messages come to you. I am not a fortune teller. I function exactly as you do. However, this could be a mirror sign, where the very things that happen in my life and lead me to certain reflections match and mirror perfectly with yours. Use them wisely. I send you my best regards. Za'el.